प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिनां मध्ये महाभारतम्। ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वदी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवतां नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिनां मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचानूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। I welcome you all with my love and respect. You and me. This is a subject today. Daivasura Sambat Vibhaga Yoga. Krishna goes much further today to explain the deeper level samskaras, engraved memories. In the 14th chapter, he spoke about Gunatraya Vibhaga, the Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, 3 layers of Prana Sharira, Mana Sharira and Sukshma Sarira. Then next, yesterday, he spoke extensively about causal body in the Purushottama Yoga, how Urdhvamula Madaschagam Asvattam Brahuravyayam, how the roots of the tree is centered, roots of the tree are in the physical world and The branches are in the causal world. That is why he says, Urdhvamulam adaschagam asvattam brahuravyayam chandamsi yasya varnani yastam vedasa vedavit. The roots are, usually the roots of the tree will be in the ground, under the ground, unknown space, and the leaves will be in the known area, known space. But this tree is opposite. The leaves are in the unknown space, the causal layer, the underground area. The roots are in the known space, conscious space, the physical world. And he explains, the leaves are the Vedas, means the words which you are using continuously in your being. And he further explained how to remove the engraved memories in the causal layer and how to program the causal layer towards bliss, towards eternal consciousness. Now he goes one layer deeper, the cosmic layer. He speaks about the Daiva Asura Sampat, the qualities of divine and demon. Both, the beauty is both words have got same root. Of course, it is not accidental, because both qualities are rooted in the same energy. Just a simple decision. When you choose the word you became divine. When you choose the word me, you became demon. That's all. Same energy. Ramakrishna says beautifully, no energy can be destroyed. Your love can never be destroyed. It has to be turned. It has to be turned. There's one more beautiful example of Ramakrishna. He says, as long as the calf says aham, aham, the calf, as long as it says hum, hum, it has to work, suffer, and it will be beaten, all torture. Once it is killed, and out of that skin they will make a music instruments. When you beat that, it will start saying tumi, tumi, tum, tum. As long as it says aham, aham, it will have suffering. When it starts saying tum, tum, it will start singing the glory of divine. It will be used for divine purposes. Beautiful simile, beautiful example. Of course, I am not able to exactly translate. In colloquial Bengali, he explains, as long as you have that idea, aham, aham, ami, ami, me, me, continuously you will be demon for yourself and for others. The moment the cognitive shift happens in you, you will be a blessing for yourself and for others. Here, in the causal layer, you have all the engraved memories. All the engraved memories are stored. But in the deeper level, in the cosmic layer only, you decide. You decide, you are me. Let me explain it in a small diagram where we take that decision. How usually our mind receives the data and processes, and how the cognitive shift can happen in our being. By now I think all of you know the drawing. Just for the sake of newcomers, I'll give a simple explanation. You receive information through eyes. For example, this scene. The file goes to Chakshu. In the Chakshu, the whole file is converted into digital file. Whatever scene you are seeing, that is converted into a biosignal file so that the file can be processed. The file goes to Chitta. There the excluding process of neti, this is not happens. Where you understand this is not a tree, this is not a plant, this is not an animal. Then the file goes to mind. Mind starts identifying. This is it, this is it. This is a man. He is standing with a saffron robe. He is taking class. The idea comes. Then the file goes to Buddhi. Buddhi compares with your past experiences. Your past experiences with the person. For example, with me, if your past experiences are good, if you are happy, or your whatever you heard, if you feel positive, then the file, the Buddhi writes, yes. If you feel it is waste of time, or if you don't feel in tune with my ideas or the time which you spent, if it was not pleasant, then the Buddhi writes no. The file goes to ego. Then ego decides what is there for me, what way I am related, what gain I am going to get. If some way I am going to have the gain, ego says yes, let us sit here and listen. And if there is no gain for me, if I am not going to be enriched, then ego naturally says no. Then according to the ego's instruction, you decide. Your body moves or sits. This is the way the process happens. This is the spot where you choose what is there for me. Your vested interests come. Please understand, sometime the whole process will say, yes, I will have to sit. But this one spot will say, my vested interest is getting affected. Then you will never be able to sit. This whole thing may accept what you are doing. But if this one thing is not ready, the whole decision will be changed. And same way, if whole thing says no, if this one thing says yes, you will decide yes. Sometime when we do something which is not moral according to the social standard or according to your understanding, according to whatever data you collected in your life, the data collected stays here, the samskaras or engrams. You have so many data, so many informations. The data is available here. According to your data and the whole process, the final report comes no. But suddenly your ego feels, I get strengthened by doing this activity. Let me do it. So you simply decide to do that. You simply decide to do that. This is the place where you decide you are me. That's the only small difference. When you take the decision of you always radiate the divine qualities. When you take the decision of me, you always radiate the demonic qualities. Whatever strengthens your ego, please understand, even, let me be very clear, most of us sit here because it strengthens the ego. It strengthens the ego. Now you know much more than other person. You can go on, tell him, what do you know? Many times we sit and listen just for ego satisfaction. So if you sit and listen, even if it is Gita, if you sit and listen for ego satisfaction, be very clear, it is going to be only trouble for your being, no way it will be help. In the cosmic layer, this is the area you decide. If you decide with the attitude of you, the whole thing will become divine. If you decide with the attitude of me, the whole thing will become demon. And what you collected, see the engrams here, as such they are neither negative nor positive. The mind which is working here, as such it is neither negative nor positive. The chitta which is doing the process here, as such it is neither negative nor positive. So none of them are neither negative nor positive. Please be very clear, including the gunas. Even the tamas, by their quality, they are neither negative nor positive. There are so many enlightened masters. You cannot make any difference between them and laziness. You cannot make any difference. Raman Maharshi, throughout his life, he was sitting in one place, one city. He never moved out. But you can't say he was in tamas, because he never took any decision out of me. The whole process was happening, you as a center, not me. As such, whether the chitta or mind or samskara, you cannot tell they are bad or good. In the superficial layers, they are neither bad nor good. But the decision which you make in the cosmic layer, in the deeper layer, that only makes them as good or bad. Please understand, passion and compassion are one and the same. Passion and compassion are one and the same. When you decide based on me, it is passion. When you decide based on you, it is compassion. We need to understand an important thing. Whenever it is passion, it will be strong in our being. But when it becomes compassion, it will not have that much of intensity. Means, be very clear, your compassion is also just a pseudo expression. Maybe for name and fame's sake, not for anything else. If you don't have that intense compassion, the way in which you experience passion, with the same intensity, if you don't experience compassion, be very clear, all your activities are purely out of ego. Including this Gita Jnana can become ego when the decisions are taken out of I and me. If the decisions happen out of you, not this Gita Jnana, even ordinary activity which you do in your life can become divine. See, we don't have to work on the doing, we need to work on the being. Doing can never lead you to anything. As long as you believe doing can lead you to ultimate, you are called karmagan, the person with karma. It is called Purvamimamsa. Only when you understand the being can lead you to the ultimate, you are called Uttaramimamsi. In Vedas, there are two major portions. People who believe in doing, people who believe in being. People who believe in transforming the being, they are called Vedantis. People who believe the transformation ultimate can be achieved by doing, they are called Karmagandis. They continuously believe in doing. Of course, ultimate can be achieved only by working on the being, not on the doing. If you try to work on the doing, either you will suppress or express. Either you will suppress or express. Continuously you will be fighting with yourself. Nothing else will be achieved. A man who can transform his being, only he can achieve the ultimate. Whether demon or divine, it is decided only on that one point. When you receive the data, process it and deliver the result or command, how the command is delivered, what is the center from which the command comes out. The command comes out thinking this one statement, what is there for me? What is there for me? What is there for me? Whatever you may do, including meditation, it will be only ego satisfying. Many people come and ask me, Swamiji, at some point I felt such a deep ecstasy in meditation, such beautiful bliss in meditation, but suddenly within 2 hours it disappeared. It never came back. Why, Swamiji? How to have it back? Please understand, the bliss itself is choicelessness. When you are absent, you experience bliss. The moment you want it back, the moment you choose bliss, already you have chosen. The moment you choose, you will always choose suffering. All choices are suffering. And bliss is choicelessness. The moment you want to grab it, the moment you want to have it, when you are blissful, you allowed the bliss to possess you. The moment you want to possess the bliss, you will make it as suffering. When you want to possess, you wanted that to strengthen your ego. The decision is from you. Decision is from me. The attitude, me. The attitude, me decides. The moment the attitude, I and mine, me, that when that decides, to destroy the bliss. You can no more be divine. When you are in blissful, you just set a capital no to me, the me idea. Just you are relaxed in the you idea. The moment you wanted to possess the bliss, you said yes to your me idea. Please understand, I have to use this me and you word properly. You need to understand that me and you word properly. When I use the word me, I mean ego. When I use the word you, I mean the whole existence. When you are not there, whatever is there is existence. When you are not there, whatever is there is divine. You make demon by bringing the idea me in you. The moment you bring the idea me, whatever is demon. The moment the me idea is removed, whatever is divine. With me idea, whatever you do, whether it is meditation or rituals or whatever, receiving the knowledge, learning, everything will only strengthen the ego. Anything done with idea of me to improve the me naturally will lead to more and more ignorance and dukkha. Anything done with the idea of you, anything will naturally become divine and will lead to bliss. Pravritti, nivritti. Nivritti is centered on the idea of you. Pravritti is centered on the idea of me. Whatever you do out of me, it will lead to pravritti. Whatever you do with the idea of you, it will lead to nivritti. As long as you feel this is your boundary, here your boundary ends and here the universe starts, you will be continuously fighting with existence. You will be continuously fighting with nature. You will be continuously fighting with the whole. Please be very clear. Part can never succeed when you fight with the whole. When it fights with the whole. Continuously, whatever you think, speak and do based on the one idea, me, it will lead to more and more complications, more and more dukkha. Here, Krishna starts explaining beautifully the nature of demonic nature and divine nature. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Again, throughout this chapter, only Bhagavan speaks. In the first chapter, only Arjuna is speaking. Bhagavan is silent. Means completely is expressing his ego. Almost the catharsis is happening. He is mad, confused. he is just vomiting, quoting all the morality, whatever he learnt, quoting everything, he is speaking. Slowly he comes down to the next level. He is allowing the Bhagavan to speak and the conversation is happening. First, he is expressing him, not letting Bhagavan speak. Then he comes down to the level of conversation. Bhagavan also speaks, he is also speaking. Then he comes to the level of little more listening. Now practically he is silent. In the 15th chapter and 16th, both the chapters, he is silent. He is not uttering a single word. That's what I told. No questions, only doubts. All the questions have disappeared. Now only small doubts. Means he is asking for more tips, more clarification, more understanding. Bhagavan uvacha abhayam sattva samsuddhir jnana yoga vyavastitihi danam tamascha yajnasya swadhyayastava arjavam ahimsa satyam akrodas yagas santirabhaisunam taya bhudeshvaloluptam mardavam hrira chapalam tejatshama drudissaucham adroho nadimanitaha bhavanti sambadam daivim abhijadasya bharata. Let me give you the translation. Bhagavan says, fearlessness, purification of the being, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, and centered on the being, performance of sacrifice and accumulating knowledge, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to divine men endowed with divine nature. Now, when you listen all these things with the attitude of me, usually what we do? Start practicing all these things. Start practicing all these qualities. Be very clear, if you start practicing all these qualities, one thing is sure, you will become mad. You will become mad. Nothing can be done. Because you will be fighting with yourself. You will be controlling your senses to strengthen your ego. When you try to understand all these things, when you try to understand all these ideas with your attitude of me, I, you will start practicing them to strengthen the idea of me, to strengthen yourself as a better being. Again and again. Masters prove. Masters are not better beings. They are totally transformed beings. Better beings are different, transformed beings are different. The other day I was telling you that lion and sheep lion story. The story told by Vivekananda. Beautiful story. In that story, the sheep lion, he doesn't want to realize he's lion. He just wanted to be a good, strong sheep. He's asking the lion to give some technique for becoming a strong sheep. Same thing. If you straight away start practicing all these things, you may have little strong ego. Understand, that is why all these so-called tapasvis, people who repress themselves, will have a strong ego. Will have very strong ego. People who do tapas, people who repress themselves, you can see very clearly they will be radiating ego. Because they are doing all these things to strengthen. When you do all these things, naturally you will strengthen your ego. You will strengthen your ego. When you are completely blissful, relaxed, then if austerity happens, if tapas happens in you, you will never expect others also to do tapas. I have seen so many sannyasis, especially in India, continuously they blame the householders. Continuously they blame them. You don't do this, you don't do that, you are not right, you are not pure, you are sinner. The problem is, when you suppress, when you force yourself to do tapas, you are continuously burning inside. So naturally, sometimes you yourself get the doubt whether you are in the right path or what you are doing. Is it right? You get the doubt. Then naturally what we think, we have to do something. The doubt is coming up. Let us make others guilty. When you make others guilty that they are not doing right thing, you feel now, yes, what you are doing is right. When you make others feel guilty that they are not right, you feel you are right. When you see when you suppress, when tapas is done by force, you naturally expect others also to do that. If they don't do, you create guilt in them, and by creating guilt in them, you wanted them to come to you and confess. When that happens, you feel more and more strong. Tapas is supposed to happen out of joy and bliss. Just as a natural thing, anything done by force is not going to help you. It will neither help you nor it will help the society. I have seen so many people doing tapas like Ravana. Ravana did tapas, but all his powers, it never helped him or others. He has become demon for himself and for others. He was killing others. Finally, he has destroyed himself. Because the tapas is from the attitude of me. What is there for me? To strengthen the I and mind. The whole thing happened to strengthen the I and mind. Please understand, whatever you do, whether it is studying the spiritual scriptures, or the charity, or social service, or the spiritual things, or puja, or meditation, whatever you do, to strengthen the I and me will always lead to suffering. It will lead to suffering. The instinct to survive and instinct to possess is what I call me. Me means instinct to survive. Instinct to possess. Instinct to survive is I. Instinct to possess is mine. Person who understands both are illusions. You cannot have the instinct to survive. Whatever you may have, you cannot survive. Please be very clear. The instinct to survive is pure illusion. At the most, you can survive as you think yourself 70, 80 years. 70, 80 years you can be alive as you think you are. How you visualize yourself. In that form, in that way, you can be alive maximum 70 to 80 years. But the instinct to survive tries to extend it, tries to make the life as eternal. Naturally, you are walking towards suffering. As long as you carry the instinct to survive, please be very clear, again and again and again, you will be hurting yourself. You will be hurting yourself. Just today morning, I was talking to an ashramite. She was complaining to me that she is hurt even by a small words which comes from others. She was telling, I am too sensitive, Swamiji. I said, stop that word. You are not sensitive. A real sensitive person will be porous. He will allow the words to pass through him. Only arrogant people get hurt. If you are hurt, please be very clear, you are arrogant. You are strong like a stone. That is why words come and hit you and you are hurt. If you are sensitive, porous, you will just let the words pass you. You will just let the words pass you. You will never suffer. Suffering is always from arrogance, never from sensitivity. Person who is sensitive will never suffer. Because you will just allow the words to pass you. You will not stop them. You suffer by a word when you stop them, when you resist them, when you make meaning out of them. When you don't make meaning out of words, you never suffer. Words can never create suffering when you don't make meanings out of it. It's like just playing with words. We always choose nice words to support our ego. We don't want to say, I am hurt because I am arrogant. We always use a polished word. I am hurt because I am sensitive. Please don't cheat yourself with words. Let you be straight. Let the straight words be used. Especially in America, I see lot of polished words. Lot of polished words. People easily cheat themselves with the words. People easily cheat themselves with words. Please don't cheat yourself with polished words. Let things be straight. Let everything be clear. Never ever use the polished words. You can use the polished words to cheat others, but don't use it on yourself. Don't use it on yourself. A small story. One contractor wanted to donate a car, gift a car, a sports car to an official. Official said, no, I am an honest person. I cannot think of accepting this gift. I am not that type. Contractor says, in that case, if I can sell this car to you for $10, how it will be? He says, in that case, I will have 2 cars. Be very clear. Just playing with words. Playing with words. Don't cheat yourself with words. Let us be clear. What is, let us use the same word. Ramakrishna says, Man mukh ek karo. Let your words and mind be straightened. Let your words and mind be straightened. Whatever is, let it be straightened with words. At least you will know you have problem. When you start using very colorful, polished words, by and by you forget you have some problem. You forget you have some problem. When you just play with the words, you yourself forget you have problem. Understand? When you know, you don't know, at least you know you don't know. When you don't know that you don't know, you don't even know you don't know. Be very clear. At least let you know you have a problem. Let you know that there is something wrong. Let us use the straight words. Shortest distance between 2 points is always a straight line. To achieve anything, shortest way is straightforwardness. Shortest distance between 2 points is always a straight line. Same way, if you want to achieve anything, the shortest way is straightforwardness. Nothing else can work. Here, Krishna gives all the qualities, one by one. Of course, we can't even explain all the qualities. He goes on, fearlessness, the first thing. As long as you carry the instinct to survive, you will have fear. You will have fear. Fear can never be taken away from your being as long as you wanted to survive. Surrendering to the existence, surrendering to the death is the one and only way to achieve fearlessness. There is a beautiful Upanishad, Kathopanishad. If you find time, you all should read that Kathopanishad instead of watching the Jerry Springer show. That's what the most popular show in America. When it comes to some Shastras, we all tell no time, this is not there, that is not there. But somehow we find time for everything. Instead of watching all those shows, you can better read this Kathopanishad. Understand, this is a beautiful Upanishad. No, but see, we can't compare any other system with Vedanta or Vedic rishis. They have gone so deep into the science of death. West has dedicated its whole energy for life. And the East has dedicated its whole energy to understand death. That is why rishis, they live even when they die. They live when they die also. Even after death they live. They exist. They discovered the art of living even after death. But people who are caught in the material world, they die every moment even when they live, when they are alive. The Upanishad is the science of death. Beautiful story. Young boy goes to the Yama's abode, Lord of Death, Death's abode, and the story is beautiful. Yama receives him. Of course, 3 days he was not there. His servants tried to receive him, but Nachiketa is the hero. He says, no, I will wait till Yama comes. When Yama comes, he comes and receives him. He welcomes him. Understand? Nobody goes to Yama's abode. Only he comes to our abode. Always he comes. When you try to escape from him, he is death. He will take away all your I and mine. All your possessions will be taken away from you. You cannot sign your check anymore. You cannot use your car anymore. You cannot have your relations anymore. Whatever you think as yours or you, everything will be taken away from you. Yours, all the wealth, relationships, your bank balance, everything. And you, what you think as you is that body. Even that will be taken away. Everything will be taken away when death comes to you. But when you go to him, see the story. Story says, Yamadharma receives Nachiketa with love and care. First thing, he becomes your host, loving host. Next, he says, please have 3 boons. I'll bless you with 3 boons. Let me give you 3 boons. And Nachiketa first asks for relationship. He says, when I go back to my family, my father should accept me, love me and take me into his family. Yama blesses him with the relationships. Next, Yama gives him all the wealth and shows the path to create wealth, Nachiketagni, all the pleasure and comforts. He teaches him the method to create wealth and pleasure, all the comforts. He is behaving like a god. First, he is behaving like a loving host. Then he is behaving like a god. Next, ultimately, he gives the Atmajnana. He is behaving like a master, enlightened master, and he gives Atmajnana. Because Nachiketa asks for the secret of death. Then he blesses him with the enlightenment. Look at the life, the paradox of the life. When we run away from death, even then you can't run away. He will chase you wherever you are. He will chase you. He will chase you. He will take away all your wealth, take away all your relationships, take away whatever you think as you and yours. Here, the whole scene is different. When you surrender to him, when you go towards him, first thing is a loving host. He is not terrible as you think. Always we portray Yama with a big mustache, sitting on the buffalo, black, with a big rope in his hand, that pasa rope, and with an arrogant smile or a arrogant face, egoistic. But here, the whole scene is different. He is saying, Swahatam, please come. He is welcoming. You are the form of Agni. See the Vedic culture, Aditi Devo Bhava. In Vedic culture, we respect Aditi, guest is God. Aditi means man who comes without informing in which Tithi he will come. Tithi. He will come without informing in which Tithi he will come. That is why he is called Aditi. Not the person who sends you email, then phone call, then fax, then he will appear. You go and receive him in the airport. No. He is not Aditi. He is your relative. You have to take care of him so that he will take care of you. That's all. It's a pure business. Please understand, all our things are pure business relationship. Aditi means a person who straight away comes to your life. The big problem is, in this country, the Aditi concept is lost. People can't believe, still in Indian villages, all houses' doors will be kept open in daytime. At least in the village I am born and brought up. Whole day the doors will be kept, the doors of the house will be open. And I have seen, I will go to any house in that street and eat. And any kid will come to the house and eat directly. And the very idea Aditi is disappeared. People always tell me, Swamiji, India is poor country. I tell them, no. You don't know the value of that culture. For example, if you have to be received, taken care, and you have to stay for 3-4 days for your business purposes, how much you will spend? But in India, you have some friend, just one phone call. The whole thing is done, of course. Now there also, because of the cultural invasion, it is coming down. At least in villages, still it is alive. Where the Vedic culture is alive, still it is alive. Aditi Devo Bhava, we respect the guest as God. Guest is God. He says, you are Aditi. You have come to my house in the form of the Vaishvana Agni, means the Agni which we worship. The Brahmana is considered to be the embodiment of the Agni, the divine Agni. You have come to my house as the embodiment of divine. You are here. Let me respect you. Please forgive me. Apologize. Please forgive me. 3 days I was not here to receive you. Usually we postpone Yama. Usually we escape from him. When you go in search, he will not be there. That is the whole story. Usually he chases you. You run away from him, but he will be there behind you. But if you turn and go towards him, you will suddenly find he is not there. 3 days, Nachiketa says, Yama is not there. Understand? The story is significant. It has got a tremendous truth in it. Nachiketa goes there and he finds Yama is not there. It means when you turn towards death, you will not find death as you imagined. Whatever imagination you have about death will not be there when you surrender to death. Now, because of your fear, you escape. Because you escape, he chases you. Both are like a vicious circle. If you understand, the moment you surrender, he will not be there as you imagine him, as you expect him. Naturally, that will add courage, and that courage will make you face him more clearly. When you face him more clearly, more courage. When you go in that cycle, it is called virtuous circle. This is vicious circle. We are caught in the vicious circle. Let us turn the whole thing to virtuous circle. If you understand this one Kathopanishad story, the whole idea about death will be transformed. When you go, he is not there, first thing. Next thing, he appears, but not as you imagine him. Not that arrogance, not that person who will take away everything from you, not with pasa, not on the buffalo, nothing. A humble host. Please come. Please come. Welcoming host. Receiving you with all love and care. Next step, he is God. He blesses you. Ultimately, he gives you the Atmajnana, knowledge, enlightenment. We may think, how to go towards death, Swamiji? Shall we commit suicide? Please understand, suicide is not going towards death. Please be very clear. Never think people who commit suicide are fearless. They are most coward people. They commit suicide because they are not able to live this life. They are not facing death. They are escaping from life. Suicide is not facing death. It is just escaping from life. Escaping from life is different. Facing death is different. They just escape from life. Escaping from life doesn't mean they are facing death. Suicide is not the thing. Suicide is not the fate. Face the fear. When the fear is created in you, when the fear happens, just go through. Don't allow the fear to frighten you. People come and tell me, Swamiji, I am afraid of my fears. Fear is enough trouble. Why are you afraid of fears? Don't allow the fear to frighten you. Sit in the room. Be yourself. Just sit with yourself. Let the fears come up. How long you will postpone the fears? How long you will control them? How long you will escape from them? Allow them to come up. Your whole being may shake. Tears may roll. You may have the deep depression. Let everything happen. Whether you allow this fear to happen or not, the incidents are going to happen. I can say our fears can be classified as a major 5 category. 1, fear of losing your wealth, comfort. Next, fear of losing some part of your body in accident or disease. Third, fear of losing your near and dear ones. Fourth, fear of losing your mental well-being. Fifth, fear of unknown, fear of death, fear of ghosts, fear of God, everything. Fear of unknown, fear of hell or heaven, everything. These are the 5 major fears we face in our life. All your fears can be brought under these major 5 categories. Major 5 categories. Allow them to come up. Sit with yourself. Give half an hour for your fears. Tell them, today I am going to face you all. Today, let me see what happens. Let your mind speak everything. Let everything come out. You may have the depression. Tears may roll. Whole body may shake. Let it come out. What can be done? You can't do anything. If you can, you would have done it. If you can, long before you would have done it. Very clearly, your very existence proves you are not able to do anything. That is why you are just keeping quiet. So now what can be done? Nothing can be done. Allow the fear to happen. Let everything happen. Let the fear come into your being. Allow the fear to come up to your conscious layer without suppressing. Yes, I have the fear. There is a possibility for all these things to happen. There is a possibility it can happen. There is a possibility my wealth can be stolen. There is a possibility my near and dear one they may die. There is a possibility of me facing the accident. There is a possibility of me dying. There are all these possibilities. Yes, what can be done? This is life. This is what I call facing the reality as it is. Only kids need fantasies and imaginations to face the reality. But you need to understand the truth as it is. You can't escape from reality. You can't escape from the truth. The more you try to escape, the more they will haunt you. They will be behind you. They will be chasing you. So allow, let the fears come out. Suddenly you will see, when all the fears leave you, you will see you become more responsible. You become more intense. In our meditation programs, the second level program, we have a meditation called Death Experience. It is based on Ramana Maharishi's experience. People always feel frightened to enter into the meditation. But the moment they come out, they always tell me, Swamiji, now I feel really my responsibility. I was postponing so many things without doing. Now I decided the first thing after going from here, I will do all those things. Naturally, they become intense. They understand the values of relationships. Again and again, people report to me, after that meditation, I really start respecting my spouse, Swamiji. I don't take her for granted anymore. When you think the possibility of death, immediately you will never take life for granted. You will not take a spouse for granted. You start living. Same day, when there is a possibility of wealth being taken away from you, you will not take your wealth for granted. You will start living it. You will start living them intensely. You will not take things for granted. When the possibility of death, when the possibility of being taken away from you, when it enters your being, you start realizing your responsibility. Granted, a small story, how we take things for granted. There was a king. After 45 years, he felt completely bored. Because whatever he wants, he is having. Whether it's comforts, luxury, or women, whatever enjoyments, he's got everything. Now what to do? All the excitement is lost. Feels bored. Let me tell you, all kings live in hell. When I say all, I mean capital A-L-L. If you want to live like a king, go to hell. Straight away you will become king. All kings, because you will have everything. Tremendous boredom will happen. If you don't have something, you will have the excitement, you will work for that. There is a need for continuity. There is a need to live. You will have some goal. There is need for continuity. When you have everything, what for you should live? Nothing. Never imagine when you have everything you will be happy. Be very clear. Never imagine you will be happy when you have everything. You will be in hell straight away when you have everything. This king, he entered into the hell because he got everything. And he is totally depressed, bored. He doesn't even want to come out of the room. Whole day is lying. These ministers, they tried all their best. Whatever they can do, they tried to bring him out, to make him again alive, to give him a little excitement. They brought best comforts and luxuries from all over the country. They brought the best things from all over the country. And they brought all possible pleasures. But nothing worked. He said no. Finally, they decided to do one thing. King, there is an enlightened master in the forest. He may be able to help you. Why don't you come and see him at least once? He will bring you out of depression. Because many people have been helped by him. King said, I am not interested in coming anywhere. Enough. He says, no, please try once. King said, all right. Anyhow, you are all telling so much about him. Let me try. He comes, but with all the doubts, with all the questions, and he is not ready to trust that person. First of all, he is suspecting whether he is enlightened or not, who knows. And he goes to the master and he just asks straight away, see, I just wanted to know, can you help me to come out of depression? That is the way these guys will question. Because they have come just to check out. They have not come to learn. They have just come to verify. I have seen so many people coming and asking me, can you show some path to achieve God? I tell them, please, I will try. Why don't you be seated? Why don't you have your seat? I will try. And they will come as if they have come to check me. And it's really fun. One young guy, well read in all these, the modern day books, Ramakrishna's life, Vivekananda, all these modern day saints' lives. This guy came and asked me, Swamiji, have you seen God? I just smiled at him. And I asked him, did you read Vivekananda's biography? He said, yes, I read Vivekananda's biography. I know how Vivekananda asked Ramakrishna, same way I am asking you. First thing, I cut out of his shirt so that he should not run away. I cut out of his shirt. You see, when Ramakrishna told, I have seen, Vivekananda simply followed Ramakrishna. Gave his whole life to Ramakrishna. Dedicated his whole life to Ramakrishna. Now I am not only saying I have seen, I will show you, come. Fellow ran away. Fellow just escaped. He is not ready to take the responsibility, but he just wants to check out. He just ran away. I told him, I am not only saying I have seen, I will show you, come. Come and be with me, come. Simply ran away. The guys just want to check out. The king wants to check out. He goes there and asks casually, can you tell me something to get rid of this depression? Master straight away says, if you can bring all your wealth in one, put it in one gunny bag, bring it and bring it here. then I will teach you. Immediately the king decided, this fellow has nothing to do with enlightenment. He is a cheat, bogus fellow. And he is asking for all my wealth. He said, he did not even give a reply, he went away. But that night, he started slowly thinking, why should he ask for wealth, all my wealth? And there is some grace beyond my doubt. There is something about him is working on me. And one more thing, I tell you one thing. People ask me, Swamiji, how to find out whether somebody is enlightened or not? You can never find out by intellect. Never try to find out. Always try your best to suspect. If he is really enlightened, beyond your doubt, his form, his being will be there in you. You will not be able to forget him. Never remember. People always ask me, Swamiji, should I remember you? No. Try your best to forget. Try your best to doubt. If at all I had divine experience, that will work beyond your intellect. If I am going to help you, if you will be helped by me, beyond your intellect, you will simply fall. Let me be very clear. Simply you will fall. Through intellect, you can never analyze and understand. With intellect, try your best to say no. That's the best thing. If you try your best to say no, you will never be cheated. That's the best thing, right thing to be done. And if the person is really enlightened, he will be able to penetrate you beyond your intellect. He will be there just in your being. He will be there in your mind in daytime. He will be there in your dreams in the night time. He will be there, he will be haunting you. You cannot escape from him. So this master has started haunting this king. The guy is lying on the bed, rolling this side and that side. Why did he ask? Shall I try? After all, what can he do? Even if he takes away, I can easily catch him. It's after all my kingdom. He started doing all the calculation. And anyhow, I am not happy with all this wealth. Even if he takes away what is there, anyhow it is not useful for me. At least let him have. So he decided to risk. He decided to take the risk. Next day, he converted his whole wealth into diamonds and put in a gunny bag. He brought the gunny bag. With the gunny bag, he came to the master. He was standing in front of master. Without saying a single word, suddenly the master snatched the gunny bag and started running. Started running. King understood. This fellow is a cheat. No doubt. Now we know for sure he is cheat. Now we cannot afford this. He started chasing the master. You cannot chase a person who lives in the forest because he knows all the secrets. That is why these professional people can never catch bandits. See, the professional police people, not only in one country, all over the world. Professional police, they can never catch bandits because they know the secrets of land. They know the secrets of the landscape. This guy runs. Because this master, he lives in the forest. He knows the complete forest. He runs this way, that way. King is new. Fellow is trying his best. He runs. And master is doing a nice drama. It went on and on and on. The king started thinking, why did I take this risk? And what nonsense I did. And he is blaming himself and suffering. What will happen now when I go back to the country? There is nothing. I will be like a beggar. I will have to beg and eat. And he started already visualizing his poverty scenes. And he started suffering the poverty. Already the poverty has entered in his mind. When he is rich also, he was suffering. When he was rich, he was suffering. Now he is suffering by poverty. That is a paradox. Money, when it is there, it will give you suffering. When it is not there again, it will give you suffering. And this guy started suffering. Already he started visualizing about poverty and suffering. Somehow, when it was evening, the king was about to give up. I think now I cannot do anything. This fellow knows everything about forest. Now I have to go back. At that moment, suddenly the master stops running. The moment the king saw he stopped running, he jumped and caught hold of him. Caught hold of him and caught hold of that bag first. Then master laughed. He started laughing. King, he was not able to understand what is going on. Master says, fool, now take this and enjoy. Now take this wealth and enjoy. Suddenly king felt he has become rich guy. His own wealth. One day ago it was his wealth. Just because he missed the wealth for one day, suddenly he felt he has become rich. Suddenly he felt he has become rich. Master said, fool, you are depressed because you took it for granted. Now the same wealth, you lost it for one day. Again it has come back. You will be able to enjoy. Go and enjoy. King has come out of depression just because of one day missing the wealth. In our life also, when you allow the insecurity consciousness to happen to you, please understand I am using the word consciousness. Feeling of insecurity is conscious thing. It is truth. If you allow the insecurity to happen to you, you will never take your life for granted. You will start really enjoying life intensely. Just miss what you have for 12 hours. One day. You will never take your life for granted. You will never take your life for granted. Live one day without eyes. As of now, you are taking your eyes for granted. Try to live one day, 12 hours without eyes. Decide without opening eyes I will live. Then you will never take your eyes for granted. Same way, you will never take your life for granted if you know it will be taken away. You forget it will be taken away. You suppress the fear. You suppress the insecurity idea in you. That is why you never enjoy the life. You take life for granted. The moment you experience insecurity, the moment you understand it is insecurity, life will be taken away from you any moment. You will start living intensely. You will never take life for granted. Please be very clear. If you are depressed, bored, just lose everything for 12 hours. Just lose everything for 12 hours. You will suddenly understand the truth and you will never take life for granted. The king, he felt bored because he took life for granted. When you face the death, when you face insecurity, immediately you understand how you took life for granted and you will start living intensely. That is what this story means. Yamadharma gave relationships to Nachiketa, wealth to Nachiketa, finally enlightenment to Nachiketa. Means the very understanding. I have seen many people, when they come out of the death meditation, they tell me, Swamiji, now I understand the value of relationship. Means they are blessed with relationship by Yamadharma. They say, now I understand and I know the value of my wealth. It means Yamadharma has blessed them with wealth. Now they will start living. They say, now I know that the life is the big blessing. ultimate blessing. And naturally, the blessing is showered on them by Yamadharma. And they understand, when they do intensely, they understand body may die, there is something which is beyond body and mind which exists in them. That's what I call Atmajnana. You will have all the blessings of relationships, wealth and enlightenment when you face the fear, when you face Yamadharma. Here, when Krishna says fearlessness, he means face it. Only then fearlessness can happen. Only when you face the instinct to survive and instinct to possess, you will enter into the zone of fearlessness. Till then it can never happen. If you can face the instinct of survival or instinct of possessiveness only by taking the decisions based on the concept of you, not on the concept of me. As long as you work, act, speak, think centered on me, you will be Daman. You will be working for the survival of instinct, the instinct of survival and instinct of possessiveness. When you start working based on the concept of you radiate a new energy. Just try for 1 week to live for others. Just try a simple experiment. I am not telling you to give away all your properties. No. I am not telling you to give away all your properties. I am not telling you to give away anything. Usually, always you think, what is there for me in this? What is there for me in this? If your wife calls you for a movie, you will say, no, I want to go to beach. You always stand with your preference. 1 week, just 1 week in your office, in your house, in your wherever you go, try to work, try to decide with the attitude of you instead of me. Just a simple things, very simple things, very simple decisions. I am not asking you to give away your properties. Just day-to-day life, simple decisions. Immediately mind will tell, no. If I start thinking based on you, people may take me for granted. People may exploit me. People may cheat me. All right. Now nobody is cheating you. You are living centered on the idea of me. You are protecting yourself. Are you happy? Come out. Are you happy? No. Then why not try the other side? Just a simple experiment. Just a simple experiment. We lived throughout our life with this Asuri Sampat, what Krishna calls as demonic nature. Me. Now, just for 1 week, why not try? Always when we come back, first we catch our seat. We put kerchief also. First we catch our seat. And when some prasad is given, first we go and catch our plate. Instead of that, just for 1 week, get the plate and see that the other person receives it. See that next person is comfortable. Early morning when you get up, ask the other person, are you okay? Why don't you use the bathroom, then I will go. Always wait, first I have to go. I have this work, I have that work. Instead of that, just a simple thing. Small things you use today, then I will come. Please you do that, then I will use that. And continuously you are working. Let me do this small one. Just for 1 week, try to put that you in your being. I tell you, from where bliss will come you don't know. Suddenly you will feel your whole being is relaxed. When you don't give attention to me, you will never be at tension. As long as you are giving attention to me, you will be continuously at tension. The moment you put the you in the place of me, a deep inner healing will happen to you. Please understand, what I am saying is not morality. Please don't think I am teaching you how to live happily. No. I am not giving this as a morality. I am giving this as a spiritual practice. Understand? If you are working towards spiritual growth, if you are a professional seeker, I use that word because there is a group of people, especially in the West, they are professional seekers. Any Swami comes, they will be there. Any Swami or any book, any spiritual thing, they will be there always. They will come. I have seen people coming and telling me, Swamiji, for last 30 years I am seeking. Don't feel pride about that. Don't feel pride about that. I have seen with our ashram, with our mission, with our movement, the senior devotees, they go and tell the juniors, do you know, I am with Swamiji for 3 years. These juniors come and tell me, I call that senior, don't spoil my name. You are with me for last 3 years, still you have not become enlightened. Don't go out and say that you are with me for 3 years. That's spoiling my name. That is not spreading my name, that is spoiling my name. You are here for 3 years, still you don't know how to respect a junior devotee, still you don't know how to care for him, then don't say you are here for 3 years, then you will spoil my name. It is repairing my name, not spreading my name. So don't be proud, you are a professional seeker. Please be very clear. If you have that pride, I am a professional seeker, or I know so many, this Swami, I know that Swami, I have done his course, I have done that course, I have done this program, I have done that program. Especially these NRIs, they don't miss any program. So that they can have all the certificates. If you are a professional seeker, if you think you are seeking spirituality, please understand, take this one spiritual practice. Just a single spiritual practice for 7 days. If you think, really, some way I can help you, take this single statement, forget about everything else. This single statement, instead of deciding based on me, decide based on you. I am not asking you to give away your properties. I am not asking you to renounce anything. Simple decisions. Very simple day-to-day decisions. You will see something happening in your being. The tension or the solid weight which is there in you will simply melt, will simply loosen up, and you will experience inner healing and a tremendous cool breeze, bliss breeze in you. Naturally, when you get a taste or glimpse of this mood, automatically you will start expressing this attitude in your day-to-day life every day, every moment. Be very clear. Always we choose words and we do actions based on me. When you are shouting at somebody, you say, no, I do it for his good, Swamiji. For his sake, Swamiji. When somebody else is angry, you say, see, like a demon, how he is mad at others and he is shouting. When somebody else is angry, he is shouting. When you are angry, no, I do it for his good only, his sake only, Swamiji. I have to take care of him. If I don't teach, who will teach him? And I am doing it for his good only. Please understand, don't play with words. Just be straight. Just be straight for next 1 week. Not even more than that. After that you can become your old self, no problem. First 1 week, just 1 week try. Very simple things. Instead of always deciding for me, decide based on you. And I tell you, the irritation which you carry continuously will simply disappear. The instinct to survive will disappear. An instinct to possess will disappear. You will become an empty being. You will become hollow bamboo. When you become hollow bamboo, you will become flute in the hands of divine. Whatever happens through you will be divine. You will imbibe the divine nature. Krishna goes on. He explains further, step by step, how to imbibe the divine nature into you. How to do the cognitive shift in the very deep level, subtle level. Please understand, working in the level of sattva, rajas, tamas is very difficult. That is like changing all the servants to change the master. You will never be able to do. Just change the master. All the servants will be changed. Here, Krishna is giving you the technique to change the master. Ego, which takes decision. He is giving you the straight technique for the cognitive shift. Now the cognition is happening, keeping the I as center. He just gives you a simple technique to replace the I with the word you, so that the cognitive shift will happen. The same system will be used for divine nature. The same will be used for divine nature. Rama and Ravana, both are energetic. Both have got Brahmastra. Only one thing, one is centered on I, another one is centered on you. That's the only thing which makes one person as divine, the other person as demon. Now, Krishna goes further, deep, and gives you the subtle techniques to experience the consciousness of you, the ultimate consciousness, the consciousness of whole. He gives the techniques to experience the Daivi Sambat, divine nature of your being through this cognitive shift.